you notice that everybody has just bypassed St. Patrick's Day and moved right into spring and Easter? Well, stay tuned. Hi, my name is Leslie and welcome to Happy Tuesday, where we do crafts and DIYs and home decor and more. Today I have for you 5 DIYs that can be used for St. Patrick's Day and beyond. Now, if you stick around to the very end, I'll give you a hint on one of the projects that we're going to be doing next week. So, let's get started. Here's a sneak peek to all 5 projects that we're going to be doing today. Catch a quick look because we're about to get started. And that brings us to project number 1. Isn't he adorable? So I found this binding wire, which is actually paper wrapped wire on Amazon, and I'll have that linked below. But I'm first going to start with some air clay. You'll also need some type of paper and a base, and then some wire. That wire came from the Dollar Tree. And so I am going to form his little head and his little body with the air clay, and then get that on my stand, and that's where he's going to hang out. Now the air clay actually stuck right to that wood with no issues at all. And then his little head, I actually had to wet the top of that body just a teensy little bit, and then put the head on there. And now I'm going to take some of this wire. Now I believe this came from the automotive section at Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to trim off 2 pieces here with my tiny little snips from Harbor Freight. And then I'm going to use my tiny little pliers from Harbor Freight, and I am going to fashion him an arm. I decided it was a little bit too long, and I will trim down the other arm to match. But here is what I'm going to do to make him a little hand. I'm going to bring those 2 pieces together, and then he'll be waving. And now I will take the other piece and I'll make his hand, and then I'll make it so that he has a little crook in his arm so that he can hold this little balloon. And I thought it was going to be a smart idea to use that other arm to measure, but really I just needed to take the piece that I'd already cut off. So I am going to bring that right through the air clay, so as it dries, those arms will be solid right in there, and then we will move on to the next part. Now I didn't want to try to freehand any shamrocks, and so I actually cut these out on my Cricut, and I cut a little green one that'll be his little heart. And then I cut out a white one, and my original plan was to use those paint pens and write on it, but that didn't work out. So I'm going to take my wire, a paper wrapped wire, and I am going to form it around this shamrock shape to make it a shamrock balloon. And once I get that all done, then I actually pulled out my paint markers, and the green was all dried up and used up already. And so I went back to my Cricut and I cut out a green shamrock and actually had my Cricut write on it. And here we are with the green shamrock. Lucky me, lucky you, lucky us. And I'm just going to use some hot glue and go around that paper wire and put some hot glue on, and then attach it right to my shamrock. Once that's all glued together, I'm going to take my handy dandy little pliers and I'm going to create a little circle base for my balloon, and then I will use some hot glue and attach it, and that will render this project complete. Is not he the most adorable thing? I thought about painting a face on it, and I just thought, you know, that That just little clean look looked so cute to me. So here he is, all finished. I love him. What do you guys think? And that brings us to project number 2. This one is so simple. I chose from these 3 houses at the Dollar Tree, but they have so many different kinds of house frame types of looks. Um, I think I actually have probably 6 or 7 in my craft supplies. Now, in hindsight, instead of painting this white, I probably should have just grabbed one of the chalkboard ones with the white dry erase board on it instead of this chalkboard, but I'm going to tape it off so that I don't get any of the white paint on the wood part, and then I'm going to give it several coats of white chalk paint. This is White by Waverly that I got from Walmart, and then once I get this all done, I will let that dry, and I will cut out the saying, the Irish saying, for on my Cricut. And I like to go ahead and remove the tape while the paint is still wet, because then the tape isn't sticking into the paint and then you rip off paint when you take the tape off. And I'm going to go ahead and use my antique wax by Waverly and give that wooden frame a nice little stained look. Now I'm putting this on with my handy dandy baby wipe so that I can put it on and take it off all with the same step. And then, since this is all still wet, I'm going to take a small paintbrush and do the inside, being very careful not to get antique wax where the white paint is, and then I'll gently take that off. Now that I've got that all stained and it's all dry, I am going to remove the top layer of this vinyl, and then I'll weed out all the little pieces. I'm going to use my clear contact paper to be the transfer sheet, and then we'll get this inside the house. One of the things that I do notice about using the clear contact paper as transfer tape is, even though you get a lot of it for $1.25, sometimes it's hard when you're first putting it from the carrier sheet onto the transfer paper. Then I decided that it needed just a little bit something in the peak of that house, so I went back to my Cricut and created this little decorative shamrock and weeded that gently, and then placed that, and this project will be complete. I think it is so sweet, and even though it does have a shamrock on it, I feel like it could be left around all year long. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click the bell so that you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. Give it a thumbs up and comment the word of the day below, which today is shamrock.
And that will bring us to project number 3. I just think this turned out so adorable. Now, I got a knife blade for Christmas that I wanted to try out. So I bought some chipboard at Michael's. It was 99 cents for this 2mm piece. It measures 11.5 by 11.5, which will be a problem you'll see later. And you're also going to use the strong grip mat. Now, the only one I have is this 12 by 24, but we're going to go with it. So I researched some instructions, and it said you needed to use the strong grip mat and tape down your piece of chipboard. Now, once I tried to get started the first time, I had to calibrate my knife blade. But now we're getting started after the knife blade has been calibrated, and I am moving my pieces so that they've got plenty of room around them. And I am doing this in Cricut Design Space. I created this piece, so it will be in Cricut Design Space if you would like to recreate it. So I'm going to search for the chipboard in the materials and find that heavy chipboard, and it says make sure the star wheels are all moved to the right. So I am now moving them all to the right, and then when I go to put in my piece of chipboard, it's actually too big. A little bit more research. If you buy the Cricut chipboard, it's already at 11 by 11, but I had to cut this piece down and then tape it back onto my mat. Now, once I got that all done, I clicked for it to go, and up pops the detecting box, and then it lets me know it's going to cut one of 24 passes. This took multiple hours, so set it up and walk away, which is what I did. I went and cooked dinner, and I came back to check on it, and where pieces were getting a little bit of rub or they were lifting a little bit, I added some more painter's tape just to hold them down. And once it all completed, we'll take off the tape, and you'll notice how easily all these pieces pop up off of this chipboard. It was super exciting. Now, one of the reasons why I picked this piece is because that it can be used for all your decor. The other reason I decided to do this particular craft is because I know people like my sister who live small, tiny. She actually lives in her motorhome. And I thought this would be the cute piece that she could use for all the decor all year long, and it would be able to store inside the back of this little frame. Now, this frame I bought on clearance at Hobby Lobby. I think I paid 79 cents for it. And I sanded off the outside and then gave it a nice coat of white chalk paint. I'm not sure where that footage went to, but I painted it with white chalk paint. And now I am decorating all my little pieces. Now I've created for you 12 different pieces, one for each month of the year. So you have the little hat up there for January, and the heart for February, and the shamrock for March, and the egg for April, the flower for May, the strawberry for June, the flag for July, the apple for August, the pumpkin for September, the ghost for October, the pilgrim hat for November, and the star for December. So each month will have its own little decor piece that you will be able to attach onto the gnome front. So here I am just decorating all the pieces. I used chalk paints and I used my paint markers, and I just used all the things that I had available to me in my craft supplies. So you could add glitter or whatever you have available and however you want to decorate these pieces. And one of the cool things I found in my supplies were these tiny little stars I thought would just make the cutest little addition to that flag. I bought that little pack on Temu for I think 50 cents. and I'm sure I'm going to get lots of use out of it. So I'll take a little piece of painter's tape in a minute, and I'll put those stars on it and paint them white. And I'm just going to keep decorating away all the little pieces until they are all just the way I want them to look. And once all the little pieces were painted, then I took my roll of magnets, and even though they have a sticky side, I put some extra hot glue on there anyway, just to make sure that they stuck well. Now, note, I am running them in two different directions, side to side and up and down, and that will make a difference with whatever direction you put the magnet on your gnome. So keep that in mind, because I ended up having to rip them off and redo them in the other direction. But anyway, so we'll get those all glued down, and then we'll move on to painting our gnome. Now, because this is for all the seasons, all year round, I wanted to make sure that the gnome was made to be very neutral. And so I am going to paint him white and gray and give him a little bit of dimension to his beard. And let's watch and see what happens here. Now I am going to give that a quick sand and just give it a little bit more rustic kind of look and clean up my space here. And then, because in my head this is traveling around in my sister's motorhome, I wanted to create a very secure back where none of the pieces would get lost or misplaced as they're traveling down the road. So I am going to take some of this faux leather from the Dollar Tree, and I am going to cut a piece slightly bigger than the outside of the box, and then I will cut that in half, and I'll use my staple gun and some magnets, and we are going to secure a back. Now make sure when you are securing that top that you don't staple it all the way down, or you're going to have trouble getting your things in and out. You got to leave a little bit of space there. So now we are going to assemble all the pieces, and because of the way I designed this, everything fits on top of each other. So we are going to glue down his beard and then his little feet. And given in hindsight, I probably should have painted his feet a slightly darker gray, but it is what it is now. And I am also going to secure his nose and his hands, but making sure when I secure his hands that they are spaced to be able to accommodate all the different pieces. Now I did use a Folk Arts porcelain paint for his hands and his nose. And so we're going to get those glued down, and then we are going to secure our magnet, and this will be done. And that brings us to project number 4. This is another quick and easy one and very budget friendly. So I picked up this sign at Hobby Lobby on clearance. I think it cost me $2. And I want to gift this, and so I am going to finish it out as if I wanted it finished. So I'm going to take all the nails and staples and everything out, and then I will fill those holes with some wood filler and sand everything down. I sanded down the future hunting buddy on the back side, what will be the back side, which was the front, and I'm going to give it a good coat of white chalk paint so that it is nice and clean with crisp edges and looks all pretty and professional. And then we will move on to staining all the wood pieces with my antique wax and a baby wipe. Once I've gotten that done, then we will work on getting the little cricket saying I have printed onto the inside of this sign. So let's just watch the process. Shenanigans is my favorite word. Now, if you don't have a Cricut, this could easily be recreated using letter stickers. I think it turned out so sweet, and even though it's St. Patrick's, it could be out year-round. What do you think about this sign? Leave me a comment down below. And that brings us to our final project, another neutral design. Now, last week I told you that you could use an embroidery hoop, but I didn't want to separate the inside from the outside, so I bought these little floral hoops, and I have some foam board from the Dollar Tree, some bamboo skewers, and some beads. Now, I bought the big bag of beads on Amazon. I believe it was 300 for like $10. I'll have it linked below. And then the little beads all came from the Dollar Tree. So I'm going to put a big bead on the skewer, put a little bit of hot glue, and set that skewer inside that bamboo ring. And then the next one will be a small bead. And I'll alternate beads on the skewers all the way around until I get totally from one end to the other. And once that's done, then we'll go back in with the beads and we'll alternate them on the skewer based on their size until we get this vase up into the height that you want it. If I were to do this project again, I might leave out one less skewer and I might just give it a teensy tiny little space between each bead instead of them being right up on top of one another. When I got down to the end, it did require that I added a little bit of hot glue to keep it into my round shape, but you'll see that. So here's where I am getting it up to the height that I wanted, and then I'm going to take my little trimmers here and I am going to trim down the top off of all the skewers and then add one final bead, and I'm going to glue that down. Now you can kind of see that it's a little bit wonky, so I'm just adding a little bit of glue and tacking one bead next to the other so that we can keep that round shape. Now you can either make the bottom or not make the bottom, which is why I cut out that foam board. I wanted to be able to put something in it and then be able to carry it from one place to the other. So I am going to cover this circle, both sides, with a little bit of this faux leather from the Dollar Tree. And I will make one circle the size of the round and then one just slightly bigger than the round, and then I will cut little pieces and glue it on so that it all comes together, and then we'll glue the smaller piece on the top, and that way it gives it a nice finished look. So again, you can leave this part out, but I decided that I wanted to put some eucalyptus I've had sitting around for a while into it, and I just love the smell of eucalyptus. And so I'm going to take some hot glue and I'm going to smooth that out so we don't have round bumpy edges. And then I'm going to cut the little slits in my round all the way around, and then those will be glued to the inside, and then we'll take that final piece and glue it on the top and then glue the bottom to the vase, and I'll put my eucalyptus in and you'll see how lovely it turns out. This is definitely a piece with the eucalyptus that can be out for St. Patrick's Day, but one that you can leave out all year round, even with the eucalyptus in it. I think this turned out so classy looking and very high-end looking, and I just left mine natural, but you could paint yours any color you like.
Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really do enjoy our time together. Now, since you stuck around to the very end, I'm going to give you a hint on a couple of the things that you're going to need for next week's video. We're going to need a few twigs, a wood round, some little pebbles, and then maybe some greenery or other things to embellish our project with. But until then, make it a great day and happy Tuesday!